What's up, Laker fans? Lonzo Ball's passing is already elite, so his abilities as a scorer will largely determine his ceiling in the NBA. In this video, I take a look at what he does well in this respect and where he needs to improve. Much has been made of his unusual shooting form being a detriment to his ability to shoot pull-up jumpers, which may be true to an extent, but I'd like to focus on his feet for a minute. Simply put, he has a hard time stopping or slowing down once he starts going downhill. He gets fouled on this, but watch how far forward he jumps rather than jumping straight up or close to it. This means that he's going to shoot a lot more teardrops and floaters than pull-ups because he rarely uses a 1-2 step or a jump stop to slow down his momentum and go straight up. The more skilled guards in the league would put this trailing defender in jail, which we'll get more into in a second, and then shoot a pull-up jumper. But Lonzo ends up shooting a runner because he doesn't know how to slow himself down yet. When you look at the guys around the league who are really skilled at this, they come off of the screen with less speed than Lonzo does, at least when the defensive big hangs back in the paint like this. That allows them to be more on balance and pull up without all of their momentum going toward the basket. Lonzo reaps a lot of benefits from the fact that he's always playing fast, but I think that this is an area where he'd be well served to slow down a bit. Here's the one time I thought he had his feet right going into the pull-up and ended up getting fouled from behind. He's raw at this, but it's teachable. He also needs to learn how to put guys in jail. When he gets to this point, he should be cutting off his defender's angle and keeping him on his hip, and in not doing so, he allows that defender to recover. Lonzo looked more comfortable collecting himself when his defender went under the screen, largely because he hadn't started going downhill yet, but the results still weren't there. He releases this one a little early, and if you look at his feet, his right foot ends up far ahead of his left foot when he lands, meaning that he's twisting his hips, which can cause left-right misses. I counted him at 2 for 12 on three-pointers in Summer League when his defender went under the screen. He didn't have that issue with his feet every time though. It was closer to about half of the threes when the defender went under. Here are a few where I thought his feet were good regardless of the result. One thing that I'd like to see him do is manipulate the defenders by creating space with the rescreen. Here his man has all of his momentum heading one way, and I'd like to see Lonzo take a dribble to his left before putting this shot up. Since he doesn't, the big defender is able to contest this shot pretty well. Lonzo is also a straight line driver at this point, meaning that he isn't great at changing direction, which is something that he needs to incorporate into his game. Here, he gets the hips of the defending big turned, and this is a great time to Euro step to his left. But again, he doesn't really know how and when to slow down, and tosses up a wild lefty floater instead. This right here is the template for future success on this type of play. He gives his defender a nice inside-out dribble and then changes direction against the hedging big for the bucket. He has it in him, it just needs to come out more. Lastly, he didn't do a good job of exploiting the bigs on switches in Summer League, which is something that I expect to continue into the regular season. This is why it's important for him to be matched up with bigs who can take advantage of the guard that switches onto them in the pick and roll. Lonzo might not be able to capitalize, but Brook Lopez and Julius Randle will. While that pick and roll segment was pretty rough on Lonzo, it's definitely not all bad with him as a scorer. He did his best work in transition and in early offense. He has excellent speed in the open court, and he's such a threat as a passer that defenders don't like leaving their man to guard him, leading to open layups for him. I was especially impressed with his hesitation and inside-out dribbles in transition, which I'd like to see him incorporate into his pick and roll game. Lonzo dropped 36 on the Sixers in large part because they ball pressured him far from the hoop. He's good at utilizing his straight line speed, hesitation dribbles, and keeping defenders on his hip in these situations. As a shooter, Lonzo was most comfortable on pull-up jumpers in transition, hitting 3 out of 5 of these. Lonzo wasn't a great catch and shoot threat in Summer League, going just 4 for 15 on those attempts by my count. In most cases, I don't think there was anything mechanically wrong with his shot, he just missed, and it was short most of the time. That isn't uncommon in Summer League, where guys are playing their first real games in a while. 3-point percentage in Summer League usually isn't predictive of regular season performance. My personal preference is when he comes off of screens or handoffs, as that's when he's able to read the defense and get open as a result. Isolation is the only area of his offensive game where I'll be surprised if he can get to at least an above average level. His combination of fairly rudimentary ball handling moves and change of direction means that he has difficulty creating space, and even when he does, his current discomfort with pulling up makes it hard for him to complete the play. As a result, he's going to step back more often than not. One of Lonzo's best attributes is his activity level. That's easy to overlook, but it's a significant part of what he does and will create advantages throughout the season. It really isn't that technical, but it matters. Early on in Summer League, they went into the post with Lonzo quite a bit, and I don't think he has the ability to exploit that much at this point. He could be used effectively as a passer from there, but the Lakers didn't run a ton of split cuts off of that. That could change during the regular season. Last but not least, he had his shot blocked pretty frequently when attacking the basket. He'd be well served to learn how to initiate contact with the defending big with his shoulder. By not doing so, he allows shot blockers to size him up and time the swat. Lonzo is pretty raw as a scorer in a lot of respects, but most of his weaknesses are fixable. They're tools and skills that he can acquire with good coaching and hard work, and he's underdeveloped in these areas in part because of the unusual style that he's always played. I don't expect him to ever be one of the higher scoring guards in the league, but he's such a great passer that if he can simply become a credible scoring threat, he can be a superstar. Alright, that's it for this one. I've been prepping a ton of content for the season, so if you like what I do, please support me by making either a monthly donation to the Patreon link below or a one-time donation to Venmo. Thanks as always for having my back, and I'll catch you guys next time.